When my sister Maya got engaged to Arjun, our whole family was ecstatic. He was kind, thoughtful, and clearly adored her. But with the joy of planning her big day came an unexpected tension. His father, Mr. Kapoor, Arjun's father, was the type of man who wore tradition like a badge of honor. In his world, roles were assigned early and boundaries never blurred. I, on the other hand, was a bit of an outlier, a woman in my 20s, single by choice, outspoken and unapologetically myself. From the moment we met, he barely acknowledged me. At family gatherings, he'd shake hands with my parents and even share inside jokes with my younger brother, but when it came to me, nothing. No eye contact, no small talk, not even a polite smile. I tried not to let it bother me. Maybe he just didn't know how to handle someone like me. But at the wedding, it reached a new level. As Maya's maid of honor, I was everywhere, helping with makeup, fixing floral arrangements, coordinating the playlist. Mr. Kapoor walked past me at least 10 times that day, never once acknowledging my presence. When I handed him a water bottle during a long outdoor photo shoot, he took it without a word. When I offered to help him find his misplaced phone, he turned instead to a waiter. It stung more than I wanted to admit. I wasn't expecting a warm hug or bonding moment, but basic courtesy would have been nice. Still, I told myself, this is Maya's day. Don't cause a scene. Don't make it about you. But I did have one moment that was mine, the speech. I had written it weeks ago. Funny, heartfelt, filled with anecdotes from our childhood. But as I sat at the reception table, watching Mr. Kapoor laugh with a cousin, while ignoring my glance yet again, I made a decision. I stood, heart pounding, and folded the paper in my hand. I wouldn't read what I'd written. I'd speak from the heart. Good evening, everyone. I began, voice a little shaky. I'm Tara, Maya's older sister, occasional therapist, and lifelong best friend. I was going to give a nice, safe speech, but I've changed my mind. The room quieted. Today, I watched my sister marry a man who sees her for everything she is. Brilliant, fierce, soft-hearted, and stubborn in the best way. Watching them gives me hope that love doesn't have to mean shrinking yourself to fit someone else's expectations. I paused and glanced at Mr. Kapoor. His expression was unreadable. But today, I also noticed something else. Sometimes in celebrations like this, people see only what they want to see. They overlook the messy, opinionated, independent ones in the room, the ones who don't always fit the mold. A nervous chuckle rippled through the audience. I want to say thank you to Maya for never asking me to dim who I am, and to Arjun for loving her in all her complexity. Because love that demands conformity isn't love. Love is seeing someone fully, and choosing them anyway. Silence. Then applause. Not polite, real, resounding applause. Maya had tears in her eyes. Arjun stood and hugged me, and when I sat back down, I felt something shift. Mr. Kapoor approached me later, after most guests had left. He stood beside me for a long moment, then cleared his throat. You speak well, he said, fiercely, like your sister. It wasn't an apology, but it was something. Thank you, I replied, surprised. Then he nodded once and added, I think I hadn't seen you properly. Until now. Sometimes the smallest acknowledgments carry the heaviest weight. And sometimes all it takes is one speech, one moment of truth, to change everything. I nodded slowly, unsure what to say. For a moment, we stood in a bubble of quiet, just two people navigating a complicated bridge built out of tradition, misunderstanding, and the surprising power of honesty. I still don't agree with everything you said, Mr. Kapoor added, his voice calm but deliberate. But I suppose that's not the point, is it? I smiled. No, sir, it's not. He looked around the now mostly empty hall. The chairs were askew, candles flickered low, and Maya was laughing with Arjun near the dance floor, barefoot and glowing. The tension that had colored so much of the day started to dissolve. Do you know, he said, turning back to me, my mother used to say that a strong woman unsettles weak men. I thought it was just an old saying, but now I wonder if I became one of those men without realizing. I blinked, caught completely off guard. I don't think you're weak, I said gently, but I do think we come from very different worlds. That doesn't mean we have to stay strangers. He gave a small chuckle, not mocking, but thoughtful. Your father and I never had sisters. I suppose I never learned how to speak to women who weren't either daughters or wives. And you speak like neither. It confused me. Now that was the closest thing to an apology I'd ever heard from a man of his generation. Well, then maybe this is a good place to start. I offered, extending my hand. You can practice on me. He took it, firmly, warmly, and nodded. Deal. Weeks passed after the wedding, and our families began blending more often. Mr. Kapoor didn't become an entirely different person overnight, but the change was noticeable. He started greeting me first at gatherings. He once even asked for my opinion on a book he saw me reading. At Diwali, he introduced me to an old friend as Arjun's sister-in-law. Sharp mind, this one. And I noticed that Maya's eyes sparkled when she overheard. Sometimes people need to be told, even shown, that it's okay to expand their definitions of family, respect, and strength. That day at the wedding, I hadn't just spoken for myself. I'd spoken for every person who's ever felt overlooked, underestimated, or boxed in by other people's silence. And in doing so, I didn't just change the way one man saw me. I changed the way I saw myself. Not as someone waiting to be accepted, but as someone who demands to be seen. The shift in our dynamic was slow, but steady, like thawing ice. I didn't expect a transformation, and I didn't need one. But every small moment mattered. Like the time Mr. Poor asked me to help him write a speech for a charity event. I thought he was joking at first. But no, he said he admired the way I commanded a room without raising my voice. I stared at him, stunned, not because he complimented me, but because he'd actually seen me. We sat together that afternoon, editing his paragraphs and reworking transitions. At one point, he said, "You know, I used to think direct women were dangerous." I looked at him, eyebrow raised, and now he smiled wryly. Still dangerous, but necessary. We laughed. It wasn't perfect harmony. We disagreed plenty. On politics, marriage, even how much spice belonged in biryani. But there was dialogue now. There was respect. And for me, that was enough. 1 year later, at Maya and Arjun's first anniversary party, I was surprised to find Mr. Kapoor standing at the center of the room with a microphone in hand. "I'd like to say a few words," he said. The crowd quieted. "A year ago, my son married a woman who challenged him, loved him, and made him better. And along the way, I gained someone else. Someone I had misunderstood, misjudged. My heart skipped. I've always believed families are built on tradition," he continued. "But now I know they're also built on humility and courage, especially the courage to speak uncomfortable truths." He looked right at me. "Tara, thank you for teaching me that respect is not just about age or role, but presence, and presence you have in full." I felt heat rise to my cheeks. People clapped. Maya gave me a teary thumbs up. Arjun grinned. I didn't cry, though. I just nodded, because this time I didn't feel like someone fighting to be heard. I felt like someone who had been heard. That night, as I left the party and stepped into the quiet of the driveway, Mr. Kapoor caught up with me. "I still don't always understand you," he said. "That's okay," I replied. "Understanding isn't a requirement for respect." He smiled. "Well said, as usual." We shook hands. No, we hugged. Brief but real. And as I got into my car, I realized something. Weddings don't just unite couples. Sometimes they give birth to entirely new relationships. The kind that take time, challenge pride, and require both people to meet halfway. That day I gave a speech to stand up for myself. What I didn't expect was that it would bring us both to a place of unexpected connection and quiet, powerful change. As I started the engine and backed out of the driveway, the celebration still echoing faintly behind me, my phone buzzed with a new message. It was from Mr. Kapoor. "Next time you give a speech, give me a warning so I can take notes." I stared at the screen, laughed out loud, and shook my head in disbelief. The man who once ignored my existence was now quoting me. Life is funny like that. Sometimes the people who resist you the hardest are the ones who end up respecting you the most. And sometimes, the most important speech you'll ever give isn't for applause or validation. It's for the one person in the room who isn't listening. Because if you're lucky, that's exactly the person who needs to hear it the most. As I drove away beneath the fading stars, I didn't feel like just Maya's sister anymore. I felt like the woman who rewrote the story, not just of myself, but for everyone watching quietly from the edge of the room, waiting for permission to stand up and speak.